Welcome everyone to another edition of the Wolfpack. Ow! With Ms. Schmidt, Ms. Perfido, Dr. Sable, and for this edition of our Wolfpack podcast, we have Ms. Ferguson here, who is going to talk to us a little bit about the career fair that she's working on in the middle school. So, Ms. Ferguson, welcome to the Wolfpack podcast. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here today. And why don't you tell us a little bit in terms of what you're doing with the career fair? I know that you kicked it off with the students a little while back. Where are the students with the project right now, and how are things going?
Well, the career fair came about longer ago than I'd like to remember. It's probably been over 10 to 15 years ago now. So some of the kids who first worked on the career fair with me actually are in careers and have families of their own now. But it all came about because we were looking for a capstone kind of a project in 8th grade. We have been very proud of our science fairs and our math fairs and our heritage fairs. And it came to be very obvious that the 8th grade was in need of something to send them off with. A big part of what we do in the second half of 8th grade has always been focused on civics and economics and career studies. So it just seemed like a really natural marriage. And the beautiful thing about the career fair or any project that any teacher could give to her kids, this is one of those things that the students come back to me and say, you know what, I really enjoyed doing that. And for a student to say that they enjoyed something that was work, there's really nothing better for me to hear as a reward. And the fact is, career studies are so much more meaningful for all of them than any history lesson that I could possibly introduce, because they all recognize that they're going to be going out and finding something to do. And part of the career study that we do is we explain to the kids, pick a job that you'll love because you're going to spend more time working than you will at home. So you need to find something that's going to be professionally and personally fulfilling, not just provide you with a certain bottom line compensation wise. What I did this year, because we're going to have to be virtual, I introduced the career fair in exactly the same format as we always have. We're just not going to be creating trifold boards and displays, which I'm hopeful that the parents, myself included, I have an 8th grader, I'm hopeful the parents will appreciate, because it won't require a trip to Michael's. It won't require any last minute gluing of papers onto boards. It's really all just electronic. And the kids are working in what's called a milestone kind of a format. Every week they have something that they're responsible for showing, to try to avoid that last minute kind of a work completion habit that I really hope to instill in the kids before they go to high school. Having a milestone to meet each week means that by the time the project is due, if you've met your milestones, everything's done. So it should alleviate stress and kind of underscore the importance of time management. The kids picked their topics at the beginning of February. The actual presentation day in the classroom will be March 18th, and we'll finish up on March 19th. So we're about halfway through. Tremendous cross-section of careers that were chosen. There are no duplicates in each homeroom, and that's something that the kids know going in. So there's only one marine biologist permitted, for example, one dermatologist permitted, one general contractor permitted. And I do give some other limits. For example, in each homeroom, there can only be at most one professional athlete for reasons that I explained to the kids.
So if a student gets stuck on picking a topic, what are some of the things that you would do to help them to find a good match?
Well, what we do is we make it very, very clear at the beginning that no matter what your interests are, we can use that as a starting off point. You don't have to necessarily go with, if you like math, you have to be a mathematician. There are so many careers that you can see that have connections with that love of math, that love of science, or even that love of food, for example, or sports. So what we do is we try to identify what are my strengths, what are my interests, and when we branch off from there and see where we can go. For example, if you happen to have been chosen near the end of the class and the ones that you were interested have been chosen, which is totally something that would have happened to me, what we'll do is we'll say, okay, you like to write, but author is taken. So if you needed to be able to write, maybe you could branch that off and be an English teacher, or maybe you could go into editing, or maybe you could be a playwright, or maybe you could work in marketing. We try to show the kids that expanding out from just the most obvious choices related to your interest, there's so many things that are interconnected.
So I have to ask, has anyone become what they were for their career fair project?
That is what an extraordinary question that is. I always tell the students, I said, listen, you're 13, maybe you're 14. The truth be told, so few of you know right now what you want to do. I'm not going to chase you down 20 years from now and say, hey, you said you were going to be a zoologist and you're not. But yes, we have had, in my limited ability to keep track of the kids who have gone and left me after all this time. We do have some kids who wanted to work in the business world and are doing so. I have someone that was entrepreneurial in his project who is running his own business. I've had students who were teachers who have gone into education. Some have who did projects based in medicine who are studying that field. So yeah, sometimes it does come to fruition, and that's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have to ask, what is the craziest profession you've seen? I mean, there's got to be some out there ones.
Well, it's really interesting to me over the course of time. Our very own Mr. DeMary from the district here, his brother, long time ago, did a project on being a gunsmith, which was interesting to me because he was interested in it. The fact that it's a very, very, very rare career field, which I didn't know anything about it. And he was so interested in the idea that there's only a handful of people who follow that career path anywhere in the world. So that was interesting. I had a student who's, I would imagine, older than I think right now, who came in having done a project related to the U.S. Armed Forces, and he brought in and put on a ghillie suit for people to look at. So that was neat. I had a senator one year who came in a three-piece suit. This year, we've got some interesting ones. I'm not going to divulge that because they haven't yet developed their projects, but we've had some really, really fascinating careers over the years.
That's awesome.
I know every once in a while, Ms. Ferguson and Ms. Schmidt, I do see a school counselor kind of cross paths with the 8th graders. Sometimes someone will choose that. And I really have to say it's one of my most favorite opportunities to walk through and see the students be their future profession or their hopeful profession. With the virtual format this year, are there any opportunities for faculty members and others to be able to see the students perform?
I'm hopeful. I don't know what kinds of security and safety protocols we follow with, videotaped things with our students, but the projects that are going to be coming in are all going to be on the Google platform. So it is my hope that we can make this available in some way, in some fashion for the people that are interested. Usually we have parents come to visit, board members have come to visit, grandmas and grandpas and baby brothers and sisters. I've actually had students that I met for the first time in their parents' arms coming to visit older siblings projects. So it's a real loss to me. And I'm grateful that this year's class is going to be able to get to do something. Last year, 8th graders, unfortunately, we began our remote instruction way of life 1 week to the day before their career fair. So they were all already almost done, and we were in suspended animation from that point. So I'm just grateful that we're able to do something this year, in some way getting them thinking about their future.
Agreed.
So Ms. Ferguson, when is the targeted date for this project to come to an end, for the culmination of the project?
The culmination is going to take place with the in-class presentations, which will begin March 18th, and I'm hopeful to wrap them up on March 19th. So we're getting close, about halfway through on our milestones.
Great. So there's a lot to look forward to. And hey, just thank you for keeping our tradition at ATS going, and thank you for being creative in terms of turning it virtual and giving our eighth graders the experience of something, every eighth grade class generally gets to do. So thank you for doing that and putting in that work for us.
Thank you. And I've been very grateful to both administration and the Board of Education for permitting us to do these things and empowering us to do these things that lots of other districts and lots of other areas, quite frankly, are envious of us about. So thank you for all of that.
Great. So Ms. Ferguson, thank you for joining us for the Wolfpack. And thanks everyone for joining. This was a good
Thank you
one.
all.